Hey everybody, Mrs. Bianchi. We're looking at number 5, which has a lot of stuff going on in it. So I want to show you a couple different approaches. And then when you finish this, you're going to choose which approach you're more comfortable with. Jason runs 440 yards in 75 seconds. At this rate, how many minutes does it take him to run a mile? And they give us the hint that 1 mile equals 1,760 yards. So this is something you could look up on any conversion. But another conversion that you'll also need that you probably already know, but did you know that 60 seconds are in 1 minute? Because that's important to know that. I'll just add that here's a little nugget of information that most of us have in our heads anyway. All right, now if we look more closely at the question itself, it says at this rate, how many minutes, so minutes, does it take him to run a mile would imply 1 mile. So we're trying to figure out, if we start setting up our proportion here, we need to figure out how many minutes, so I'll just use a variable m, that's what we don't know, in 1 mile. That's what we're trying to get. We're solving for m. So what does that mean we need? We need a number of minutes that we'll put right here, and we're going to need a number of miles that we're going to put right here. So let's look at the necessary conversions. So first of all, let's deal with the ugly conversion, which is this conversion right here. The fact that 1 mile is equal to 760 yards. So that means we're taking this number here and we're making that our numerator, and that would be equal to one mile. Now, where are we going to put this number? Here, because we want to convert that to miles. So we're going to put this, since the top is talking about yards, we're going to take that 440 and we're going to put that on the top. And we're solving for miles. Now, the thing that I don't like about this question is the fact that you're going to get confused between the M that stands for minutes, which is what this stands for, and the M here, which stands for miles. So it'll be really important that we label our stuff as we go. But if we go ahead and proceed with with actually solving this, some of you might actually recognize that 440 actually is compatible with 1,760. But if you don't notice that, or that's over your head, then you just go ahead and you proceed with the cross products. So this times this would be 1,760 being multiplied with m. And the other cross product would be 1 being multiplied with 440, which that's mental math, that's 440. Now, to solve this, you say to yourself, what's the opposite of multiplying a variable with this number? It would be to divide by that number. So we would divide both sides of the equation by what we call the coefficient, which in this case is 1,760. Now, on the left side, this would simplify to be 1, and 1 times m would be m. And this can actually be simplified. Let's start by dividing by 10, because if we divide by 10, then we can get rid of this 0. And if we divide by 10, we can get rid of that 0. So we're really looking at 44 over 176. Now, this is not an improper fraction. Why? Because this number is smaller than the number on the bottom. However, it can be simplified. Now, if you simplify this, I'm just going to tell you, just so you don't have to stress out over the work behind it, because this is not a lesson about simplifying fractions. It's a lesson about making sure you understand how to do conversions. But did you know that 44 is a factor of both the numerator and the denominator? And if you do 44 divided by 44, that's going to give you 1. And if you do this number, 176 divided by 44, that will give you 4. But what should you show on your piece of paper? You should probably show the algorithm of 176 divided by 44, like you would show this somewhere on your piece of paper to show that you get the 4. So do show that on your piece of paper. That way I know you know what I'm talking about. All right, so it's very important that we remember that we solved, this is miles. So it's a good idea to actually write what it is, because otherwise we might get confused and think it's minutes for a moment. All right, now, where should I put that in my proportion over here? I'm going to put this number, see miles, we're going to put that on the bottom. And don't be intimidated by the fact that it's a fraction. We're still going to work with it. We don't want to, get scared over stuff like that. All right, now we also need to deal with this conversion because we have 75 seconds, right? So let's write this somewhere else. Let's put it, actually, now that you know that you should show them your piece of paper, let's write that down. So we know that there are 60 seconds for every 1 minute. And that, again, you could look that up on any conversion table, but quite frankly, you should know that. All right, so now what are we talking about here? We're talking about 75 seconds, and we want to know how many minutes is that. Why minutes? Because this says minutes. How many minutes? So we're going to put the 75 here because it was talking about seconds, and we're trying to solve for minutes. So here's our proportion we're going to solve. Now, the same idea that we can go ahead and use our cross products. So this cross product would be 60 times m, which we would write it as 60m. And then this cross product would be 1 times 75, which 1 times 75, we can do that in our head. That would be 75. And again, we have a situation here where we have a coefficient. If we divide by the coefficient, by the way, that's a 0. This will equal 1, and 1 times m is m. All right, but once again, we have a fraction. Instead of turning this into a mixed number, we're going to leave it as an improper fraction. And quite frankly, we could put in the 75/60ths. We could do that, but we're going to simplify it. Did you know that these are both divisible by 15? Both are divisible by 15. That's the GCF of 75 and 60. And if we do 75 divided by 15, that's going to give us 5. And if we do 60 divided by 15, that's going to give us 4. So again, we have to remind ourselves, what does the M stand for? And recall that that stands for minutes. So this is 5/4 minutes. So just to recap, this is equal to 5/4 minutes. And the 440 yards is equal to 1/4 of a mile, just so you're understanding where these numbers are coming from and what they mean. So you could use these numbers in this ratio, which is what we're going to do. We already have the 1/4, right? We already have that for miles. Now we're going to put the 5/4 for minutes, and I'm going to put it in a different color just so it stands out. 5/4, and that's minutes. All right, so now we're not going to get intimidated by the fact that we have a fraction over a fraction. We're just going to press on with the idea of cross products. So this cross product right here, m being multiplied with 1/4, we would usually write the coefficient first and then the variable. And then the other cross product, which I'm going to write in red, would be 1 being multiplied with 5/4, which of course would be 5/4. All right, now, when you're solving fractions, when you're solving equations that have fractions is what I'm trying to say, you look for the coefficient. Here it is. And you say to yourself, what's the opposite of that? Because this means 1/4 is being multiplied with m and equaling this. So the opposite of multiply by 1/4 is to divide by 1/4, which is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So we're really doing the reciprocal of this value right here, and we're putting it on both sides of the equation. So what happens with everything in this blue box? You should know that it all simplifies to be 1, and 1 times m would be m. Now you should also know that we can simplify with the 4. Divide by 4 and get 1. Divide by 4 and get 1. Now remember, the answer here, this is going to be minutes, right? This is going to be minutes, so I'm just going to put the MIN on there so we know that that's minutes. And if we just finish this up, 5 times 1 gives you what? 1 times 1 gives you what? And simplify that, and that will be your answer. That would be the number that would go right here. And isn't that what they want to know? They want to know how many minutes does it take him to run a mile. So that would be the number that would get substituted here. That would be how many minutes in 1 mile. All right, good luck finishing that up.